The cardiovascular system, or the circulatory system, is the body's transport system, and it's responsible for delivering oxygen and other nutrients to virtually all body cells and removing carbon dioxide and other waste products. The whole system starts with the heart, the left side of the heart, where blood is pumped down the aorta. The aorta is the largest artery in the body, being the size of a broom handle, but then it progressively gets smaller and smaller as it branches out into other arteries. For example, the common iliac artery feeding the leg, or the brachial artery feeding the arm, the carotid artery feeding the brain. All the time getting smaller and smaller till the arteries become arterioles, which are small arteries, and eventually capillaries, which will reach every cell in the body. Arteries carry oxygenated blood, and all body cells need oxygen to survive. When the blood has delivered the oxygen, then begins the run back to the heart via these vessels, the veins. Veins carry deoxygenated blood and have the reverse process. Once they've delivered their oxygen, they then need to go back to the heart for a top-up. This can be likened to the analogy of the heart being a Tesco storage depot up in the north of the country. So every couple of minutes, lorries are leaving this Tesco storage depot full of metal containers, and inside these metal containers would be food to be distributed to every Tesco store in the country. This can be likened to the red blood cells, which would be the lorries. Inside the red blood cells would be hemoglobin, which would be the metal containers. Inside the containers would be oxygen. The same process starts. All the time, lorries are leaving the storage depot, red blood cells are leaving the heart, each with the capacity of carrying food to the rest of the body. Once the lorries or the red blood cells have delivered their oxygen, they need to return to the heart, where they'll be sent to the lungs to be replenished. So the right hand side of the heart collects all the useless blood and then gives one quick pump and sends it to the lungs to be replenished. And we can see how the lungs actually replenish the blood with oxygen in a later video. But for now, we just need to know that the right hand side of the heart pumps the blood to the lungs to be replenished with oxygen. The right hand side and the left hand side of the heart work totally independently. You can imagine there's a brick wall dividing the two. If we now have a look at the beating heart, this is not, it's only animation, it's not a real video, but you can see the heart in action. As the heart comes into view, you can see the aorta, the main artery leaving the heart on the left-hand side. Here's the superior vena cava, the main vein going into the right-hand side of the heart. And as the heart will open up in a minute, you can see the valves that look a little bit like parachutes, and these valves control the flow of blood. You can see the thickness of this wall here, the left ventricle of the heart, because this has to pump the blood around the body, whereas this wall, the right ventricle, only has to pump the blood to the lungs, so it doesn't need to be that thick. And there's the septum. As we leave this image on the screen, this is a good chance to view the coronary arteries. Doctors are always talking about coronary arteries or coronary heart disease, and people tend to think it's these arteries, but it isn't. It's these tiny ones here, embedded in the heart muscle, and you have 4 of them. So as the blood leaves the heart, one of the first things it does, it comes back on itself and feeds oxygen to itself, because it would die if it didn't get a supply of oxygen. And it does this through these coronary arteries. But you can see how small they are, and sometimes these arteries get blocked by cholesterol. which is like an internal snowdrift. The surgeon has a couple of options. He can put a stent in, which is internal scaffolding to keep that artery open, if there's 1 or 2 arteries affected. If there's more arteries affected, either 3 or 4, he would do coronary artery bypass surgery, where a vein is stripped from the leg, divided into 4, and would be attached somewhere at the top here and would literally bypass the blockage in the artery and restore the blood supply to the heart, so the heart would beat as it should do again.